Some of you may be working with Marantzas, some of you may be working with machines that you've grown to know and love over the years and you would never give up. So the machine itself, you get used to and you figure out what one you like, and I mean, I work with the Marantz because that's what we're issued. Other people around here have other machines because they've chosen to go and buy them. And in terms of just the machine itself, I'm not particularly crazy about this because it's big and clunky. But what you get to know about your own machine is, like, you should never put yourself in a situation where you have to do this when you're about to do something, right? All right, yeah, so you become familiar and you know where the things are that you need to look at, right? You need to know where your level meters are and all that kind of stuff. And you also need to get to know your machine well enough to know how frequently you want to look at your level meters, which for me is kind of, I figure I set it at around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and I kind of leave it there unless there's something that sounds as though it's going to be really like screaming as pubic hair is removed. There's going to be a loud noise, and then you pull it down. And I mean, on here, and undoubtedly on whatever machines you have, there are settings within the machine for attenuations of 20 dB and all of that kind of stuff. So, but getting to what you were asking, I think the important thing is that know thy machine before you ever go out, or sitting in the car before you go into the place. Check your batteries. Make sure you've got extra batteries, in wherever, in your pocket. And when you take those batteries out to replace them, don't find yourself going, oh shit, which are the new batteries and which are the old batteries, You gotta develop little techniques to sort of, the old batteries go in my left-hand pocket and the new ones are in my right-hand pocket. I mean, it's all that kind of really practical stuff that is really important because it makes you more confident, and that's what it's all about. Anyway, so you get yourself set up before you go in. That's just seems so useful because, to your point, it's awkward to go into a place and then say, oh, let me just get set up, because you're immediately drawing attention to your machine and you're immediately drawing attention to the very thing that can make your person you're speaking to nervous. Like, oh, look, I'm about to be on the radio as this person shuffles around,
I never thought of that, actually. I always do that. Oh, just 1 second, I'm just going to...
Yeah, well, some people, you're fine with and they're fine with. But in your situation, if you're going into a hospice, I don't imagine you want to draw a lot of attention to all of the, this stuff. You kind of want to be part of what's going on around them. You don't want to be strange, if you're dealing with that. I mean, if you're dealing with a situation where you are your own central character, right? You may have other miking issues.
Yeah, I think my challenge will be in particular is the one scene that will only happen once.
Yes.
And I sort of want 5 mics, and I really want the close-up sounds, but I want the person doing the job, their comments and my comments, and of course,
you may need to have somebody else in there miking it. You may not be able to do that yourself.
I guess I'm also used to, in terms of, say you're doing a doc about doing the dishes, you'll do it once, and then you'll do it again close up on the glasses, and you'll do it again close up on the plates. So
okay, see, I never do that, because for one thing, I get into a whole thing about what's journalistic fakery, and that feels like fakery. So I know what you mean. You want close-up sounds and you want far-away sounds, and it's lovely if you can have all of that. But it depends. I guess it depends if the emphasis in the story is on the subtleties of the sound, which is a lovely thing to be able to play with, or whether it's in telling the story, in which case, in your situation, there's many things that will only happen once. and you've just kind of got to be on top of them. Right? I mean, and you can't get that to happen again. Yeah, right. So I think you always need to go on the assumption that it'll only happen once, and you better be prepared. Remind me again what yours is? I'm sorry.
Mine?
Yeah.
It's about a character who appears.
Yes, multiple stories.
Yeah.
So yours is, yours revolves around a fair number of interviews, right? A fairly straight up interviews. Presumably then Mr. Wadhams will deal with the magic of creating scenes, which is something else, I mean, creating a context for those conversations, which is something else. So in terms of miking, I mean, undoubtedly you've worked with shotguns and handhelds. For a long time, years, I only worked with a shotgun. And then I began to feel that the sound of it was kind of boomy, that particular shotgun I had, and I didn't like the sound anymore. Someone must have said something to me or something, and so I backed off that and ended up with this thing. As you can see, I don't always treat things with a requisite amount of respect, so this works even if you do masking tape it on. And you do, it's a good idea to make a basic decision or estimation about what microphone will serve you best as you go into a situation. You may decide that you need to shift partway through, and that depends on the context, because I'm thinking of yours again. You're into that judgment call. Is something really dramatic going to happen just at the moment when I unplug the damn microphone?
And you have hours. I'm just picturing like hours and hours of tape of nothing and then 3 minutes of something.
You may, there is a pause button on the machine, and the pause button is easier than, you go in and out with the pause button. You can do that. But the notion of like coming into a room with your microphone ready, like setting yourself up in the car, you turn the microphone on, the machine on before you get out of the car. You're knocking on the door with your tape running, and you've got, see, this one is weird. I used to have a nice pistol grip mount, which was really good. This will do.
Looks like a gun.
Well, no, but I mean, this will do. So often, I mean, if you're going into somewhere, I'll often just mic like that because I'm talking to the person. It's not that, where my friend Elizabeth Gray used to say, you're sticking a microphone up someone's nose, which is not only physically uncomfortable, but psychologically uncomfortable. So whatever you can do to somehow make the microphone part of you, is good. Now, obviously, you're not going to get such precise and intimate miking, but if you're miking a room, and you're not going to get the full ambience of the room because these are very directional, right? So, but if you're talking or whatever, see, this is where radio is such a pain because there are all these wires, right? But, and you're going around, I mean, you can talk to someone like this, and that's pretty reasonably mic'd, without it really sort of doing that. And that, that helps. And you can move around, and if you've got an entire room with stuff going on, you can just shift your body a bit. And all you look like is you're just turning to listen better, which you are because your microphone is listening. So it is that. I just often found it really important to let my equipment get in the way as little as possible. Now, I've watched you work in the field, and you're extremely good at, and you kind of see techniques from different people. Wadhams manages to turn into a tree and somehow stand very quietly and still in the corner sometimes. If that sounds accurate.
Say so, yeah.
No, but often, part of what you're doing is making yourself part of the furniture. especially if it's something where you're waiting for something to happen. Or you can...
I look the other way, that's what you're saying. I try and take myself out of the space
Well, exactly.
if I'm trying to eavesdrop.
Yeah, it is that, I mean, make yourself part of the furniture means more or less the same thing. And then you have to be aware as you're listening to things just happen, when somebody is starting talking about stuff that needs a bit of explanation. And then you're into kind of, they're talking away and you're being part of the furniture. And not really looking at them. And then you may sort of turn and say, I'm sorry, what's the OCEG? And all you're doing is turning, and with any luck, they'll give you the information you need. But as much as you can, let stuff develop and just be in position to record it. I mean, then obviously there are those sit-down interview things. And this is also very useful for the walking down the street or walking around the room with someone. So, if I've got Buddy on my right, I better be on my right, and we're just walking down the street, we're fine with this, and he's, look at that tree over there, and he's talking over there, and you're kind of leaning in, but you're getting it, and you're walking, moving with them, and you're part of things, Yeah.
So I don't have as much experience with shotgun mics, but in terms of, like, are you going to pick up your arm?
I haven't had a problem with that. I mean, the thing to do, obviously, is practice and see how it works. I mean, because you've got your cord, and you're wrapping it around a bit. Sometimes, it'll come down and you'll see, and sometimes it's a trade-off. You're not going to get pristine recording.
Like a winter jacket.
A winter jacket's a problem. But, I mean, I just did a little piece about polar bears, and it was outdoors in a habitat for polar bears. And the nicest sound, kind of, was the sound of this woman's snowsuit, that swish, swish, swish sound as she goes along, because all of a sudden you knew it was outside, you knew it was cold. And, you had the proverbial crunching of the snow sound as well. But that nice sound of the snowsuit was lovely. And then, obviously, you do use your handheld mic as well. I think in that instance, I did use the handheld because it was really cold out. And this was easier to manipulate with thick gloves on, But that, and I mean, if you have got... if you are mucking about with that thing, you can also, I mean, I'm miking you pretty well from there, but I'm not, So again, it's not allowing your equipment to get in the way of the connection that you're trying to establish with the person you're talking to, And it doesn't always work, And I mean, if you're doing the interview, the sit-down interview, and you run into the kind of people who back up. You start talking to them and they sort of do this. So I'm not being entirely silly, but it's sometimes useful to get them in a corner, where there's only so far they can back up. But here, you've got all this glass. So, try and get them in that corner. So the sound's not bouncing off the glass too much. I mean, I don't know how big an issue that would be, but it's worth thinking about. And I mean, really practical stuff. If you've got a table like this, try and work across the corner, because it allows you to sort of talk like that, and you've got something to hold your own arm up with, as opposed to straight. I mean, I've did one the other day, I can't remember what it was, but you're doing this, and then after a while, you're holding your arm up, because your arm gets tired, and that's just not very useful,
Can I ask
Yeah,
a
yeah.
question? Because it's the perfect shape, the shotgun, for holding it on your arm like that
Yeah,
and walking.
yeah.
But the problem I find with the shotgun is that even if I point it here, like I'm
You're a little
mic
bit
right
off
now.
mic.
I feel like you're totally off mic, especially with a shotgun. So when you talk about walking alongside with someone, you're not pointing it at them.
No, sometimes, yeah, you're not perfectly on mic. You know, I mean, I know I do those scene-y kind of things where you're walking with someone. I've not found many situations where you're so far off mic that you can't be heard. And also, being slightly off mic tells you that there's motion going on. You know, that when the person is sort of saying, well, that thing over there, you can hear them moving, you know, and you want that. Because if it's all just, you know, there was always this kind of thing about, like, if you show like As It Happens, and back in dark centuries when phone lines were really bad, there's a trade-off. But sometimes your way of knowing that this person was in Africa was that the phone was kind of weird and it didn't feel as though they were in the room next door. And you want that. That's part of the sound of where they live, you know, or the sound of what's going on. So obviously you're not going to try and get the most heartfelt, intimate stuff in that kind of walking down the street off mic, although you often get more emotionally honest stuff when you're not really looking at each other. You know, the parallel was often made with talking to teenage kids, mothers talking to teenage kids, right? You're both sitting in the car and you're just driving straight forward so nobody has to look at each other, right? And then they'll say, well, I did steal that car, right? but I'm not looking at you, right? And in a car, you know, I've lots of times just put the microphone, the shotgun on the seat between us. And even with the car, you get enough good stuff, you know, or, you know, sometimes you just kind of lean over a bit and just kind of turn it up a bit. I mean, and you'll get things. Now, I mean, you know about that kind of more intimate miking for interviews, and that's crucial because that's your close-up stuff. Yeah.
Related, sort of.
So I tend to, I really like using mics, and even, you know, when it's a couple of people, also
Right.
to try to move it around. But in terms of a scenario where, you know, you're gathering a few girlfriends together and you know, I feel like other producers will just like set, I mean, maybe not a Marantz, but like, you know, a smaller Zoom or something, they'll just put it on the table and everyone's sort of close enough. But, you know, it's just sort of in the middle of the table. And I feel like I'm very scared of doing that.
You mean with some sort of ambient microphone that's built into the tape recorder?
Yeah, and you sort of just leave it there on the table, and it's, you know, you hear often on podcasts they'll do sort of that approach, and I'm like, so
You don't think it'll be good enough, kind of
or
thing?
I don't know. I'm just
You think
I'm just
it could be better?
nervous about it. I'm wondering if you have experience, if you've done that before.
I remember,
if you hate it, love it.
and this one, I thought, oh, this will never work, right? It was one of those, it was homeschooling in Abbotsford, BC. And, you know, I'd phone the people and they say, oh, we'll bring a couple of friends over. And what's great. So, you know, 3 people, right? Me, that makes 4, and we're around a table. Well, didn't want us around too much of a table or it was going to be difficult. Anyway, there were 8 people. And they were like around a living room. And I just ended up doing the kind of crawling around on my knees thing, right? I mean, the microphone is here, and you figured you're all right for this group. It's when that one over there starts going on that you got to move. Just keep yourself in the middle, you know. And I mean, you develop your own kind of relationship with people, which is crucial. I mean, I often tend to be klutzy. And not try to be super cool, or, you know, and people kind of like you for that, for not being perfect, you know. I mean, and you can get away with oh, whoops, sorry, I haven't got this quite working right, kind of thing. And it depends who you're talking to, you know, how it plays out, right? I mean, some guy who's Mr. Techno or whatever, then it'll be a different kind of reaction. But it really is so much about the psychology. But Yeah, I think,
I guess you're not opposed, like, you don't think that's a bad technique at times?
no, I've never used that because I've never had like built-in mics that I've been super confident in. I probably should be more confident because they're getting better and better, right? I mean, some of them are really good, like the ones on the Tascam are good and all of that. But I've always used, handheld mics of various sorts. But however,
Just going to say something to that.
Yeah.
Just because I have been doing a lot of recording around really sensitive material for a disabilities project, and there's such a balance. I mean, everyone signs consents, and I put an Olympus recorder with a fairly decent mic in the middle of the room. And people will start to talk, and of course it's still directional, and I'll see it's going, and I kind of try to subtly decide when am I going to go in and slightly change the direction. And I have to make that choice because sometimes I have to make a choice between good audio or going in and making it be known and reminding people that I'm recording.
right.
And then see that next person kind of go, pass. And it's like,
Yeah.
I should have just had the bad audio,
Well, because it's a trade-off, right? But in that situation, your machinery is divorced from you. So you have to physically move. If your machinery is kind of part of you, then it's like you talking to someone. And, there's other stuff like don't look at your microphone, look at the person. And just, it must be like when people are learning how to play golf, follow your body through with the swing or whatever that stuff is, right? That it is that kind of, you're following yourself through your equipment, but Miss Imogen.
I heard you saying that that's why sometimes you don't even bother with headphones anymore.
Well, what happens to me is, I'll go out full of good resolve and say, okay, I must be more responsible about this and stick these things on. And for one thing, I have another, very well-established colleague and it's a bit of like a confession because people kind of look at you strangely when you don't do this. But I find myself feeling a bit dorky, with all this stuff on. And that's partly my problem. But, and obviously if you're in a loud situation where you really need to cut some stuff out so you can hear what's coming in your ears, then it's important, so always take them with you. Often as not, I'll use just the earbuds and stick them in and start chatting. And if it's a situation where it looks as though the levels are going to continue, I'll just take them out. And then you just end up with this. I've stepped on them more than once, and you just get all tangled up, which is difficult. There's other things too, which, it's equipment and it's ethics. As soon as you go in, everybody knows where you're from and what you're there for. You're there to record. So you've stated yourself and you've presented yourself. You start recording and you start recording as you walk in. Sometimes people say, are you recording this? And you say, well, I'm here to, we're here to have a conversation. I'm just going to be recording on and off all day. Just you put it on the table so people know if they ask. And sometimes you are going to press the pause button because it's boring. And you don't want to have to wade through all that stuff. And then you kick yourself because you missed something good, right? But that's a trade-off. And then sometimes people have kind of a set piece. This is what I'm going to say. This is the message I want to deliver. And then what I've done often is I take off either both earphones or buds or just one. And people kind of figure it's all finished. Once the earphones are off, and you say, oh, thanks a lot. That was really, really good. And did you really hate him that much? Oh, he was, and they know who you are. They know where you're from. You're not manipulating. Well, I suppose you are manipulating. Yes, you are. It is what we do. We induce people to tell us things. But, it carries on. And, you know if there are some things, you know when a line has been crossed and you have to trust yourself. But if you take those earphones off, sometimes it makes people relax. And they will chat a little further to you. And then often then there's the thing about collecting sound, right? And sometimes that's like wash on a watercolor. You just want the sound of the refrigerator humming in the room. And it was the old rule, and it's not a bad rule, that when you're finished an interview, you collect 2 minutes of ambient room sound. And it's 2 minutes because of an ancient union rule that you weren't, as journalists, allowed to go out and collect many more than 2 minutes of ambient sound. So hence it became 2 minutes, which is useful. Because, if you're standing by the side of a road, which you often are, I need 2 minutes of street sound. Or, I want to get some birds. If you sit there for 2 minutes, you usually get some bird will fly by, or you'll get enough variety, or there'll be a truck goes by, and then there'll be a car that goes by, and then there'll be nothing, but you'll get some variety. And in 2 minutes is quite a long time. If you're inside, you need to get that room where the heater comes on or goes off, or the refrigerator comes on or goes off. And if you're doing an interview, you're probably very aware. The worst thing is the airplane that goes overhead, because that doesn't happen very often. But it's a very distinct sound, and it's kind of hard to edit in the middle of it. But so you got to get the whole damned airplane. But when you're done, you need to go and put your tape recorder over in the corner and leave it turned on. And I find, because I'm kind of garrulous, that I'll end up chattering away to someone. So I have to remove myself from the room, or I'll end up with room sound that's basically me talking, which isn't much good to anyone. But you do have to remember to get that ambient sound. And then you want specific sounds.
Thanks. Can I just ask actually a
Sure.
fairly basic question?
Yeah.
Whenever I've been recording stuff, I've just always used a very straightforward kind of omnidirectional mic, and I'm just wondering, could you just explain? I've never used a shotgun mic.
Right.
What would be the situations when you would use the shotgun mic versus an omnidirectional? Just as a general rule.
Shotgun's really good. It's like the telephoto lens, that it'll cut through a bunch of crap and just zoom right in. So I remember it was almost the first time I had a shotgun, and it was the American election campaign, the New Hampshire primaries, and George and Barbara Bush were there, and it was some event, and you're all kind of behind a fence and you can't get any closer. And there was Barbara Bush, chattering to some people over there. So I stuck my shotgun microphone, and all of a sudden I could hear her. I could hear her on tape so much more distinctly than I could with my ear. And it was a miracle. So I didn't end up using the tape because it wasn't very interesting. But it was that sense of being able to, like a telephoto lens, you can zoom in on something. And they're both political examples, which we don't do much of anymore. But Democratic convention, busy, loud, dum down on the floor, and an interview with a senator. And the shotgun, you could actually do the interview. You could hear what he was saying. Otherwise, it was all noisy. That worked. So, and a bit on a fishing boat this summer, where there's a lot of ambient noise going on around you, and the shotgun permitted you to pull the words out where you could hear them.
Yeah, because then I guess my question then out of that is, if you're in a scene, like on a fishing boat, and you're using a shotgun that picks up the voice at the expense of, the sound of the waves, how does that impact building a scene of sound?
Well, then go back and do the same thing again with the omnidirectional.
So you'd actually bring two mics with you in that kind of a scenario?
Yeah,
and
well, if you're on the proverbial fishing boat, you're out for 15 hours or something. So,
yeah.
You do your chatting. If you're out there for a while and everybody gets comfortable with you, you do the business that you have to do. And then I often will end up getting my ambient sound after all that interviewing stuff. Kind of, I've got a bit of a mental checklist, which is almost like a bit of self-flagellation. Did you forget to do this? So, and then sort of saying, okay, I need to get the omnidirectional, get some sound.
I always
Just
feel though, like when I'm using a shotgun, I'm sacrificing the quality of the sound, because with an Omni, it's a really nice, warm, intimate sound, and the shotgun sounds like sizzling bacon. There's no other way to
Depends
describe
on what
it. Like
shotgun you use.
Yeah.
Different shotguns have a different sound to them. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So you can bridge that. You can find a shotgun that can.
Well, you muck around, and then it is the balance between the quality of sound and the content. So if you've got pristine recording of something that's really boring, it doesn't help you much. If you've got a little bit more rough and tumble, but you've got some sound of stuff that's actually going on, I mean, it's like my examples are a bit too dramatic, but this was one where we were somewhere overseas, and a woman had just come out of a graveyard. She'd visited the grave of her sister. She was upset, and this wasn't even, we'd been with her all day, and it wasn't a particularly relevant moment to the story. I mean, it was sad and awful, but we were sitting there sort of, I don't even know if my machine was on at the time. And then this man came down the street. It must have been on, or I wouldn't have got it. And it was a shotgun. And all of a sudden, he turned and he did something, and she didn't speak English, and there was this explosion of language, and I was facing this way, this happened behind me, so you turn, and then I said to the translator, what happened? And there was this more explosions, and he spat in her face. And so listening back, you got the sense that something had happened, and there were a bunch of bumps and grumps because it wasn't beautifully recorded. But the drama of the moment, was what you got, and maybe would have got it on an Omni, I don't know. But the shotgun helped. It
did the job.
Yeah.
Karen, I just asked specifically because a lot of us aren't going to have a shotgun.
No, I
and an Omni.
appreciate that.
So if you were going out to do interviews in a bathroom stall, what mic would you bring?
Interviews, I guess you take what you can. You take the Omni. If that's all you got, that's what you go
All
with.
of you have access to shotguns from here. Like you're going to sign out Moran's kits, and they all have, I think they all have 3 mics in them.
And I, to be honest, have the third mic I always get confused over, and I don't think I've ever really used it. Which, just, I always look upon that as, oh, good, something more to learn, But, yeah, so, I mean, take the one you're comfortable with. And I mean, if you're going to go out more than once, you kind of go back and listen to what you've got and listen to how it sounds, and then go back another time, if you don't like the way it sounds.
So you come back, how do you organize all of your tape? How do you organize all the files that you have collected?
Well,
what is the process?
I'm a big shot lister, like a totally consumed shot lister. The most useful thing I took in high school was typing. And a lot of people aren't, and I don't quite know how you can do it without. So, I mean, I just start at the beginning and just type it all out. Oh, every word.
Wow.
I mean, and now there are some programs that help you do that.
So we
but
do
I don't
have a transcription service
Yeah.
that you guys can all use, so you can all sign up for it. Yeah.
But it,
But
and
it's
I
not.
understand, it's not perfect.
No.
You have to go back in and rehash it, and it's useless when it comes to sound.
Yeah,
Doesn't
if
do a
you are
thing.
doing an interview somewhere that's really noisy or someone with a heavy accent, I've
Well,
been told
or,
that
I mean,
it's-
but sound in the sense that you want to know
Yes.
when the toilet flushed
Yes, yeah.
at 1 minute 30, or you want to know, when the
A sigh,
screen
a
came.
deep sigh or a-
Well,
right.
that's conversational, but when the door closed, when the footsteps went up the stairs, you need to know all that, and you shot list that. So you can't dismiss your sound as some generic thing, because it's not. I mean, it's personalities, and there's paragraphs in sound. There's peaks and valleys, all of that kind of stuff.
When you have that shot list, you
Yep.
almost, this is like obviously you don't physically cut and paste, but do you take pieces and they're your building blocks, and you start building it like that?
Everybody has their own way of doing it, and you will figure out yours. And initially, you may well get really confused and say, I've lost control of my tape, like I can't find stuff. For me, I go through the shot list and I highlight things that look as though they could be useful. And then I pull those clips. I mean, we call them clips, lumps of sound. They're hardly pristine, elegant little 10-second things. They're like a minute and a half here and 2. And then I pull them, I kind of cut around them and muck about with them a bit, stick them in the computer, and then go back, and then I transcribe all that again. As I said, I'm a bit obsessive about that. And then I start, and then I often number the lumps and say, okay, well, if we go from 17 to 3, and then we can use number 5 as kind of a sound bed underneath that, and we're going to need something in there, and then I'll start assembling those things with that kind of thought in mind and see what they sound like. I mean, one, see if it makes sense, particularly if you've got a more, for want of a better word, journalistic story that has to make sense. You have to start at the beginning with an exclamation about that, and then go on to this and introduce this other character, and you can't, all that kind of stuff. So does it make sense? And then how does it feel, right? How does the sound feel? And if you've got a super dramatic moment, it's like, how do I get out of that in terms of sound and stuff? And you start mucking about. Really not much other way for it. I don't know.
That's what I do.
Yeah, mucking about, but
You can't make paper edits, it doesn't work.
oh no. I mean, yeah. I mean, and I heard just the end of Linda. I understand exactly what she means when she said it's wonderful to have a structure and to go out with one, and when that works, it is wonderful. I've very seldom found that I've ended up with perhaps the structure I anticipated. You kind of instinctively know the sort of thing you want to get from various people. It's like, maybe going out here, maybe I need some older people and some younger people to talk about this phenomenon, because their perspectives will be different. I need some men and I need some women to talk about this thing, because their perspectives will be different. So you've got an idea of what your ingredients are. I need someone who's for it and someone who's against it, grossly oversimplifying. So you've got your sense of ingredients, but I seldom know what my structure is. Often I'll end up starting almost where I started. Like, how did the story unfold? And it's kind of, this is what I found out first, and then I found out, often it ends up that way, and then sometimes you end up, there's this wonderful hunk of tape and you don't quite know where to put it, but you don't want to give it up, so you just put it at the beginning. That works, it's just, you just got to muck about finding out ways to make it work.
I have a question
Yeah.
back to what Imogen was talking about being as discreet as possible, making people feel comfortable.
Yes. Oh,
yes. I was hearing about someone's strategy was to get yourself a really good lapel mic.
Sorry.
And mic the person and mic yourself. But the problem is there actually aren't really great lapel mics out there. That's what TV uses.
I don't think I've ever used a lapel mic. I know Steve has.
I haven't had a great deal of success with lapel mics either, to be honest, or even RF mics, radio frequency mics, which you can operate, like TV does, because you can't control. You don't know what you're getting. If you pin it on someone's shirt or sweater, or all they need to do is thump it when they make a point, and you've lost that completely. Yeah. So I'd love to use them more, but I.
But in terms of the intimacy, and I mean that was a really important thing. I mean, one
nice idea.
Yeah, it's lovely.
And
in terms of the intimacy, yes, but still you may end up with what I would call kind of fake TV intimacy. Hello, Susan, how are you today? Which is the fact that there's a lapel mic doesn't bring people closer together. I mean, we're kind of now into kind of the psychology of talking to people, and I think you're always going to have a problem if you're not interested in what they have to say. Like, honestly, really interested.
No mic will save you.
No. And being interested doesn't mean that you can't challenge them.
Right.
It's sort of, well, if you really believed that, then why did you do this?
Then they'll forget the mic.
Yeah, and you've got to engage them. You've got to sound as though you care about what they have to say. And you have a certain amount of empathy, I suppose. I mean, you don't get your best interviews usually with formal, men in suits kind of deal. Although sometimes you do, but it's engaging someone, and you've got your microphone, but if you are talking to them, I mean, you're honest, you're talking to them. This is hardly there.
Once you get into it, once you're...
Well, and then there's the whole stuff about how do you get into it, and that's subject for, another conversation. I mean, where do you start, right? And then it does get to be important to knock on the door with your microphone running, because that's part of you getting into it. Yeah, and then you really have to bite your own tongue a little bit and not say anything too dorky. I mean, sometimes you do, and you're the one editing, so you can cut rid of it. That's really useful, so you cut. And the other thing, too, is if you're afraid, my friend Chris Grosskirth, I went out in the field with him on one occasion, and we were walking down the street, and it was the old shotgun mic thing, and the person had turned around or was on the other side or something and said something. And Chris was a master. He was quite soft-spoken. He was a master of this. He said, "Oh, sorry, what did you say? I didn't catch that." And, I mean, he manifested a kind of deafness. And it worked. And the person said it again without you having to say, "Oh, would you mind saying no?" Because that highlights the fact that you're recording it. But, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with saying, "I don't understand. I don't quite know what you mean. Can you explain it for me?" And just getting it out clearly. But be interested in the person, care about what they're saying, and be curious. And, you just kind of don't know what's going to unravel, And because for the most part, it's not about you. I mean, sometimes some stories are, right? But for the most part, it's about them. So your job is to be interested in them, and if you get conversational, then you can leave those questions in without it sounding like a reality jerk, you can say, but I don't understand that. I mean, usually that you don't leave in because you can usually edit that out and you just get a nice flow of the person explaining it. But there is the sort of, well, why did they ship the polar bears back up here? And if you're just asking it in that conversational way, it flows and you don't.
You're not multitasking. You're actually just asking them.
Well, you're having a conversation, and the equipment is. You've got to have enough control over the equipment to feel comfortable with it, but also I mean, to be good with the equipment. And I'm not always that good with the equipment. As I said at the beginning, I'm not a techie, so, and I get kind of devil-may-care at times,
What about checking your levels? Like, how often do you actually look down? Like, just to make sure it's still going. To make sure you don't miss it.
Once in an hour?
Yeah.
I mean, which is not good.
Then it'll just turn off.
But it depends. I mean, you're checking a bit more at the beginning, and you're sensitive to whether there are great fluctuations in sound, and if there are, then you get more attention. But I'm talking about a conversation where you are trying to be more intimate in your conversation. And then, sometimes I'll stick this up here so that I can talk to you, and try and pick a moment when they're looking somewhere else to look at your own machine. But, and yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
And this is, because it's 5:2, I know you have.
Oh, thank you, because I've lost my watch.
This is really basic, but
Yeah.
do you wear this over your shoulder? Do you always use the strap?
I really don't like the Marantz for the way it works, so I end up with it here, and then I'll end up holding on to it, because the difficulty is particularly when you're outdoors, and I seem to end up being outdoors a lot, because you've got it in here, and you can't see anything. I mean, because I'm when I say once an hour, if I'm moving around outside, I'm more attentive. So, I mean, if I'm outdoors, I'll end up with this across my chest, because the last thing you want is the thing falling off your shoulder, because then you do feel stupid. And just, it's solidly hung around my neck. And then you can just pick it up and have a little look at it, And the other thing I find with these, it gives you very little notice that the batteries are going to blow. And I've been in more than one interview when all of a sudden the batteries quit. Period. End of story. And you thought you had another 15 minutes.
Or your memory card fills up. That happens. That's happened to me once.
Well, I always record in MP3, so I always have 12 hours of recording on here.
You can switch it too, and then it'll just give you all this more hours of time.
Yeah, I mean, and I know
it happened to someone in the boot camp last term that
Right.
their memory card just filled up.
and
in
they
the
were
middle.
well. I mean, to record in something other than MP3 is better quality, but I've never had. I mean, if I've got 12 hours of space on here, I'm fine. Like I went out the other day and just cleared off a whole split, so I had 4 hours, right? And it was fine, but yeah, I'm just trying to think what else. Make sure you have something that can get under here to change the batteries with you, or like, because sometimes like my hands won't do it necessarily, so you end up with, you need something to pry underneath to get the damn things up, and I put the batteries in upside down more than once, which just ends up being embarrassing.